Bets. I'm your host, DJ Mitchell, here to go over the 5-game Friday slate. Before I get started, rate, review, all that fun stuff. I know Pat Mayo likes to say, hey, you're a terrible person if you don't do it. I'm not going to go that far, but it does help, and we do appreciate it. So if you want to rate, review, comment, questions, I don't get to all the questions. I definitely don't get them all on YouTube. I try to remember to do it. I always answer on Twitter. I'm on there way too much. So feel free to come over there and ask me anything. So we will get right into the slate of action. But I'm going to start really, really briefly. I just wanted to go over the college hockey has started. I think if you like betting on Olympic hockey, you're kind of right back to the same sort of thing. There's a huge information gap, not a lot of respect for some teams, and it's a very random tournament. I have already bet a couple games. I bet on Notre Dame, which is tied right now when I'm recording, because North Dakota was favored without their best player in Jacob Sanderson. So I definitely think that there's a bit of an edge, as I'm alluding to. So yeah, I mean, nothing's going to be perfect in this world, but I think if you're going to bet on something that we don't know a lot about, trying to find any edge in college hockey might be the way to go. I'm taking Northeastern tomorrow with Devin Levi in net, who is historically one of the best goalies in NCAA history. Literally had the second best year of all time as far as save percentage is concerned. So why not take him against Western Michigan? That could be a fun little bet. But we're going to get into the hockey. We have 5 games to get to, and I think a couple of really interesting bets. So I am going to get started with Washington at the Buffalo Sabres. This is a 6 over under. Capitals big road favorites -215, Sabres +175. A lot of people can very easily narrative this game as well. The Sabres are 5 of 6 games. I did bet them. I was at the game on Wednesday. I bet them to win, and people are probably going to go right back to it. And I totally understand that. I don't think it's a bad bet because of the +175 mark. But yeah, the wheels will fall off eventually. Anderson, Tokarski, I don't know who's going to be in net, and neither of them are incredibly good. I think Anderson's played very well for the Sabres, and it's weird because Craig Anderson being, like I'm saying, not very good, has maybe been the best goalie I've seen in a decade in Buffalo, and he's a .904 goalie. Like, it's that kind of level of depression for the Sabres in a decade, but what are we going to do? So I think here is a good spot for you to bet a couple things. Number one, Ovechkin's shots over 3.5 is probably my favorite bet here. It's been teetering around plus money. He has 8.59 shot attempts per game over the last 10. Seems like a really good bet here. The Sabres love giving up shots. They did do well against the Penguins, but I think that was more to do with the Penguins on a back-to-back than the Sabres being good defensively now all of a sudden. So I'm going to take Ovechkin as my favorite bet here for his shots. They were without Oshie. They should be back with Oshie for Washington. I think if you're betting them at all, I think that there's probably a bit of an edge to taking them over 3.5 to say that they do get those goals. Buffalo over 2.5 has been one of my favorite bets as of late. They're just a better offensive team than people give them credit for, and they're great on the power play. I think that there's a narrative there. The reverse puck line for the Sabres, I also had taken against the Penguins. It almost hit. We almost took the +425 bet down, but I think if you're going to take the Sabres at +175, what's the harm in taking them at plus 350 or whatever it's going to be to win by 2? Empty net goals are very common. The books don't seem to understand that. The Penguins at the Rangers, this is going to be the closest matchup of the night. A matchup I really like in general, and I'm excited to watch. These two teams are both in the bottom 10 as far as offense is concerned over the last 10, I think. The Rangers, as far as Corsi 4 in the last 10, are second to last in the league as far as rates are concerned, and they just not been very good at producing offense. As far as Corsi against, they are 17th. The Penguins are 6th in being good against, so not allowing a lot of shot attempts. Very, very good stuff there. So I do think this is a game that profiles to be an under. It's probably Jari versus Sturkin. I do like it okay. I don't think it's a stone cold lock. We just saw the Rangers give up 7 versus Sturkin in that. So it's really hard for people to sink their teeth into it and feel good. But it's probably what the math is going to lead to. At +100, I think it's fine. Overall in this game, I'm probably not touching the money line. I'm not going to touch anything here more than likely, other than Rust, Malkin, their shot props I'll probably get back to. And I'm definitely going to take Raquel to have a point. He's getting all the minutes at 5-on-5 and not the power play. He should, and we expected him to be in the top 6, ended up not being, but then getting a ton of run later in the game when they couldn't score. So I'd be shocked if he wasn't in the top 6. On DraftKings, he was minimum salary forever, and now he is 3,700. So you might get people that just completely jump off of him because, he has 2 games with 3 fantasy points in DraftKings back to back. he might get in the top 6 now and might be a nice asset. The Rangers are not going to be a team people are going to stack against. You look at the slate in the totality, we have 2 6.5 over-unders. We have 2 6 over-unders. And then we have the 1 5.5. Like, people just look at that and don't end up stacking. And probably not the best mentality. You could just talk yourself into the Penguins as the favorite, scoring 4 of these 6 goals or whatever the expectation is. If they all kind of come through the same unit, that still wins the slate. So I'm not someone that talks myself completely off of it. I do consider it, but it's not something that I'm super strong on. So if we get Crosby, Gensel, and Raquel, he makes the stack really work well. And we know Rickard Raquel is a great player. On the Rangers side, Vetrano is going to move to the top line, it looks like, with Zibanejad and Kreider, again, giving you a really good savings. Kopp should be with Panarin and Strome. Again, very interesting to see what ends up exactly transpiring there. But, I kind of like, if I'm going to stack anything, it's probably going to be Pittsburgh here. But I don't love this game, and I'm not sure if it's going to make my mix entirely, but that's the way I would go about it. I think the props are a lot better. And I don't really think there's one Rangers prop that I'm like dying to get. But if we get Kopp on here plus 2.5 at like 2.5 shots on goal at big plus money with Panarin and Strome, that feels good. Strome might also get an increase himself, not playing with Vetrano, a good rate shooter. So we'll see what ends up kind of coming out in the wash, but I kind of like that. Game number 3, Columbus at Winnipeg. This is your Laine Dubois revenge narrative. We've seen it before. We're going to see it again. I'm definitely taking Dubois to have a point. For some reason, I do understand it. The general principle of, well, like, how many points does let's look here. Dubois has 49 points in 63 games, and yet he's getting like minus 120 odds often to minus 135 to have a point. I get it that like Shifley is more of a point a game player and a bit more of the guy that the puck's going to move through, but I don't think Dubois, who is on the top power play and passes the puck to Kyle Connor, is infinitely less likely to have a point every single night, as they're kind of making it seem. So I do like him here again, playing with Connor and Andrei Svechnikov, his brother, Evgeny Svechnikov, at 5-on-5. I definitely don't hate it. So I think I'm going to end up betting it again here for sure. It's a revenge narrative too that kind of just pushes it over the top. I know Winnipeg's on a back-to-back, but I'm probably going to take their puck line. Columbus is bad. They don't have any centers that are worth a dang in this league right now. Sorry for my harsh words there. Dang, Jesus. Sillinger is the one that like might end up getting there, but as of this point in his career, he's just not a top line center. Roslovic is, I guess, again, revenge narrative Roslovic if you want, but not a top line center. And the other two, Corrali, etc., are bad. So I think Winnipeg could absolutely work him here. I'm going to go with that. I'm probably going to be betting against Columbus until Jenner comes back. It's fun. It's easy. They stink. I'm going to keep doing it. So that's what I'm going to do here, but I'm not incredibly bullish on Winnipeg on a back-to-back to cover the puck line, but that's what I bet, if anything. But then we can move forward to the final 2 games. There's 2 teams in this league in the bottom 10, the bottom 2 teams. Why don't I start this all over? The bottom 2 teams in Horsey against per 60, meaning essentially shot attempts, etc. Which would mean that they're allowing the most, the very bad defensive teams, and that's Arizona and Philadelphia. And they're very similar, Arizona a little bit worse, and they're both massive underdogs, like crazy underdogs. It's probably going to get worse. Plus 330 for both of them. I'm not betting either of these money lines. I'm not betting either of these over-unders. Just, I think if you're going to talk me into either of the overs, it's probably the plus 105 in the Arizona-Calgary game, rather than betting the plus or the minus 105 in the Philadelphia Colorado game. And that's really because of goaltending in general. I think it's going to be Hart in net. It's going to be Kemper in net. I really just don't think Philadelphia can score. If it doesn't come through the Kevin Hayes connecting line, they kind of just don't have it. I get Atkinson is okay, but I don't really respect this Philadelphia team against Colorado as much as I think Arizona might actually hold a stick up to Calgary. And that for that reason, like wacky brain, galaxy brain bet of the night is going to be the reverse puck line for Arizona. It's going to be like plus 700 for them to win by 2. I think if you can talk yourself into them winning by 1, you can talk yourself into them winning by 2. Calgary's not been played great over the past couple games. They've been fine, but bad defensively and not great in net. And we could get Vladar here, as Markstrom kind of might need to get right, night off. After giving up 4 and just not really looking like himself, I'd say overall. So I do believe this is a spot where you could get absolutely wacky with it. Arizona is, I don't even know if there's an expression outside of like paper tiger is the easy one, but a paper tiger normally means that it's kind of scary. Like they were, I don't even know what there's a term that exists for how bad they were as expected compared to how well they were performing. So I get that you might say like this team is a mathematical disaster waiting to happen. I'm not going to bet them here, but I mean, why can't they do it one more time, right? Like, I think if you're going to get those crazy odds on a reverse puck line, you just bet it. And if you bet it over the perpetuity in the right matchups, which I think Vizhvalka versus Vladar could be one of those, you might end up coming out with some coin. So, you think about this as like if it's plus 650, 700 for them to win by 2, you get that 1 to 10, you're making money. So I don't think it's something you put a unit on, but you put a tenth of a unit on and have fun rather than sit there and bet like $100 win 20. Like, what are we gonna do? Go get a burrito at Chipotle? I don't know. Not what I like to do when I bet. So props in both these games, I'm just going to cover them both together because they're the same freaking game. There's no sense in trying to compare. I'm going to go back to Rantanen over 3.5. It was plus 120. It might be right around there again. I'm going to go to Foley over 2.5, which did hit last game against San Jose, and they just didn't give him the third shot. He put it on net. I don't understand it. I watched the replay 100 times. The puck was a rebound. He shot it into Reimer's pads, and they didn't give him the shot. So I don't know what to say about it. The NHL scorekeeping is very like, it's one of those things that you're like, how is this how they do it still? Like, they just have some guy that decides it. It's like, yeah, because the NHL is stupid, and they tried to change it and the players didn't like it. So whatever. So eventually maybe we'll get puck tracking and actually get this right. Until then, I understand people that are scared away from the hockey product. It only makes it harder for us in the community trying to build everything up. But what am I going to do? So I'm going to go back to Foley. He did kind of bounce out of the top line, but I think either line he's on, he's going to see a good run against Arizona, who is terrible. So yeah, I'm fine with it here. So yeah, I think Foley over 2.5 to get a point again. And I think if you're going to bet like anything, like if you're like, I'm all in on Colorado or Calgary, I think you just take their team totals over like 3.5, 4.5, and say that they just massacre, because that's what the math says. It's just like, will they do it? With all that being said, favorite bets of the night are going to be a lot of props. For Kel over a point, Rust over 2.5 shots, Ovechkin over 3.5, Rantanen over 3.5, and Dubois to have a point. That was it. So that's pretty much it for me. Enjoy your weekend. Let me know if you have any comments, concerns, or anything. The other thing I'm just going to say, and I don't know, I'm going to be doing a video for Underdog Fantasy. I don't know if they're actually going to get involved with it or not, but I'm going to try to ask. I'm going to do, they have a playoff tournament for best ball. If you don't know what best ball is, very briefly, imagine you do an entire massive fantasy draft for your season-long team. But this one's only for the playoffs, and you don't have to make any changes to your roster because your best lineup will score points over the course of a week. So if you have 5 centers, the best scoring center scores points, and you go against everyone else's team that in that draft, then the best team will move forward. Big prizes up to I think 5,000 or maybe 2,500. It's a $5 entry, and I'm going to do a quick tutorial, just kind of going over how to do it. So if they don't get involved with it, if they do, I don't really care because they're not going to pay me regardless. So I'm just going to do it. Hopefully, if you want to check it out, let me know. I'm going to post a link. If you do deposit money in there and you want to play, you can give me a little bit of a boost because I enjoy extra money, and I bet Arizona to win by 1.5 goals, and I probably need more now. So definitely check that out, and have a good weekend. Other than that, DM me anything you want to know, and I'm going to try to do more bonus content that I keep promising and not doing. And the reason really being is I'm just not really getting anywhere with it as far as like finding numbers that lead to something substantial. And I don't really want to start touting things that I don't fully believe in and don't back up. But I will get something if you have a lot of questions. So just DM me questions and stuff. If I find something that I think I actually have an edge on, I'll get to it. But I'm trying to get more like math behind something before I put it out there is the best way to put it. So take care, and we'll talk to you soon.